This is a battle sent to me by HunnicWarrior, commanding Pergamon against Galatia of TrollyBoli. Trolly is a good player, Galatia is a good faction, and Pergamon is, as we know, a faction that is hard to make work with their expensive shock cavalry and their complete lack of good mid-tier melee options. So let's just go over the army here of HunnicWarrior and Pergamon. On his flanks he has 2 Hippeus Lancers. In the center he has 5 regular archers. They are directly to the front. He has 6 Galatian swords. He has 3 levy pikes to the front. He has a Pergamene noble cavalry general. 1 more Pergamene noble cavalry. TrollyBoli and Galatia has brought 1 mercenary horse skirmisher, 1 Galatian raider. He has 2 Galatian spears, 2 Galatian raiders on the flanks. Then he has 2 Celtic slingers, 4 Galatian legionaries, levy freemen, Galatian spears, Galatian noble general, and mercenary Cappadocian cavalry. So this is a quite unusual Galatian army here, fielded by TrollyBoli, and I'll just pause it to say why. He has only 1 mercenary Cappadocian cavalry. For his infantry, he has the Galatian legionaries, and that is to be expected. Galatian swords, it makes sense to go light on the Galatian swords against Pergamon, because these Galatian swords kind of cancel each other out, and the Galatian legionaries are hard to kill. However, keeping the levy freemen way out on the flanks like this might be a problem, and having such light cavalry support could also be a problem for Trolly. Not bringing any Syrian archers is also... Syrian archers would be great against these Hippeus Lancers, against the shock cavalry of Pergamon, but we'll see, because Trolly can't engage frontally very well without removing these pikes, and he doesn't have the skirmishers to remove the pikes. So that could be very dangerous here for Trolly. Also, I think HunnicWarrior has been very smart here, because the only thing that Galatia can beat, the only thing that Pergamon can beat Galatia in is in shock cavalry. So bringing 6 shock cavalry units, I think that was a smart choice. We'll see how it plays out. Here the Galatian raiders are firing a bit on the archers. The archers are sort of reforming. I don't know if they have gotten attack orders yet. No, it seems like they haven't. Using archers to screen away the Galatian raiders, but the archers need to be very careful, because 1 charge from the Galatian raiders, you'll notice that the Galatian raiders have fairly good melee stats. High melee attack, high weapon damage, high charge bonus. These are great late game units for charging into depleted enemy units, for rear charging. They can also wreck skirmishers on the charge, but they are very lightly armored, so they take a lot of damage from missiles. Orders understood. And these archers are now going to be moving up together with Hippeus, so that the Galatian raiders can't just charge in. Getting some volleys off here on the Galatian raiders, but it seems like the Galatian raiders are baiting most of these arrows. Let's see if they manage to do that as well on this flank. Archers, of course, only 125 range, means they have to get fairly close. There's 1 Galatian raider in the back here, taking some damage, but they are very fast, so they can potentially bait arrows by moving into range, having the unit fire, and then moving out before the projectiles hit them. And these flanks of Pergamon, they are fairly strong, with the combination of Hippeus and Galatian swords. If Hippeus managed to hit a unit like these Galatian legionaries, the follow-up from the Galatian swords is going to be devastating for even Galatian legionaries. Pergamon adopting a somewhat defensive posture here. And it looks like the Galatian swords are going to get a charge. The Galatian legionaries are going to charge in. Nope, the Galatian swords are being pulled away. Very smartly done here. Getting the pikes in to block and charging the Galatian legionaries frontally with Hippeus. This is devastating for the Galatian legionaries and Trolly. He's sending in his Galatian raiders to help a bit, but those Galatian legionaries took some serious hit point damage. Here come the Galatian swords in as well, and this is very nicely done here by HunnicWarrior. Getting a great engagement with both pikes, Levy pikes, and Galatian swords. But the Galatian legionaries only taking about, let's see, 25 casualties so far. While the Levy pikes have taken that many casualties as well. They are in a weird formation, which is what happens with pikes. Over here, the archers get chased away by Galatian spears. But these Galatian swords are going to do a lot of damage to Galatian spears. And I don't understand Galatian spears, bringing Galatian spears. Hippeus charging in again. Didn't look like they got a good charge there, so they're being pulled out. Pergamenes didn't get a good charge, but here the Galatian swords are holding their own against Galatian legionaries. While not holding their own, they have support of several units. If not, they would get completely wrecked. The Galatian raiders charging in got wrecked. The mercenary horse skirmishers looks like they are doing some damage to these Hippeus here, killing quite a few of them. But the Levy freemen are wavering, fighting up against Galatian swords. Another good charge by shock cavalry, and here comes the second unit of Hippeus in. It's going to do damage to these Galatian spears and the mercenary Cappadocians. But this is a dangerous engagement for shock cavalry if it isn't pulled out. Pikes being used to hold away the center of Galatia. Galatia just doesn't care, starts moving up. But the Galatian spears are wavering, and the mercenary Cappadocian cavalry is about to get hit by a unit of Pergamenes noble. I don't see any units able to support this fight, so the mercenary Cappadocians are probably going to start losing now that the Pergamenes noble got in there. And as long as Pergamon can keep their shock cavalry alive and well, they are going to do a lot of damage. Galatian swords will take a lot of damage from Hippeus. But that charge was a bit weird. Although these Galatian swords are moving into support, so that's going to hurt these Galatian swords massively. Now the mercenary Cappadocians dying against 3 units of shock cavalry here. And in the center, again, another good charge against the Galatian legionaries by the Hippeus lancers. Sneaky charge here by Galatian legionaries, jogging past the pikes. But there always seems to be a shock cavalry unit available for charging these units. And getting hit by shock cavalry and then in with Galatian swords, this is a very good example of how much work Pergamon has to do against mid-tier swords. They have to use very expensive units together with these Galatian swords, gang up on units in order to defeat them. Because in prolonged combat, the Galatian swords are just going to lose. And these Galatian legionaries getting hit in the flank by shock cavalry, they're not going to like that much. They're already starting to waver there. But Pergamon has quite a lot on the field. HunnicWarrior is doing a great job in charging in and pulling out with his shock cavalry. Galatian raiders charging into several units here. Looks like they might break these Galatian swords, but they were very depleted. And Galatia is losing important units fast, because now Galatia is in the position where they have no melee cavalry left on the field. And that is very dangerous, even in Rome 2. The Galatian swords getting wrecked by a depleted unit of Hippeus. The Hippeus get wrecked by precursors. But these blobs that start to develop, if Pergamon can hold these blobs for long enough to cycle charge with their shock cavalry, then they could do very well. Galatian nobles still fine, being feared here, or intimidated, I should say. Can't use any abilities, so they can't use second wind, they can't use cavalry counter tactics. These Galatian swords are now breaking to Galatian legionaries. Pergamon is noble, about half strength. The general might die if Pergamon is unlucky. Let's see, 43 Hippeus remaining. But the Celtic slingers are off the field. So this isn't looking too bad for Pergamon, I have to say. Pergamon has some archers left, they have a few depleted infantry units. But mainly, the cavalry of Pergamon is doing fine. So although Rome 2 was sort of seen as an infantry spam game, the importance, what made the infantry work was the cavalry. Because if you don't have cavalry to cycle charge and to stop charges, then your infantry isn't going to be able to do much. Mid-tier swords are very weak against cavalry units, and the main thing, cheap infantry units could stop cavalry with precursors, but if sword units are left alone against cavalry, it doesn't take many charges to just wreck those units. Like you see here, depleted Galatian swords and Galatian spears just getting wrecked, and this is why bringing mid-tier spears isn't quite as useful as bringing cheap levy freemen. I'll take a look at what I'm talking about afterwards. Still archers left, they still have ammunition left. There are still some cavalry units left. They are now getting defeated by the Galatian spears. 3 units almost breaking due to the Galatian spears. And against the unit that has good bracing, the Pergamene noble cavalry will just die on the charge because of the charge deflection. They have 76 charge bonus and very little armor, so they're going to damage themselves a lot on the charge against the braced enemy unit. And in the center here, this Pergamenes is starting to break the Galatian legionaries. Galatian swords also breaking. I am so curious as to how much ammunition there is left on these archers, because there is nothing left able to stop the archers now. Still, there's a general alive here. We have a unit of Hippeus with 41 men remaining. And even to archers, Galatian legionaries being fired upon into the unshielded side, they're going to die very quickly. Celtic slingers, 94 kills. The Galatian nobles screening away the Hippeus from the Celtic slingers.
Understood.
Pergamenes were about to charge in here, but they decided to wait. And Pergamon loses. It seems like they conceded defeat or something like that. Very close, valiant defeat. I agree, that was a valiant defeat. Pergamon did a lot of things right in the opening stages of the battle. Now this Galatian army was a bit peculiar, I think. I mean, Trolley made it work, but only barely, and only by the strength of his mid-tiers. So against Pergamon, I mean, Pergamon is a fairly easy army to face, but you know the strength of Pergamon is going to be in shock cavalry, basically. If Pergamon decides to not go shock cavalry, they just did you a huge favor. So I don't know what the particular rules were for this battle that they set up, but with Galatia, using standard tournament rules, I think there are some combinations that are hard to beat. I like the noble horse because Galatia lacks mid-tier cavalry options. I like 2 mercenary Cappadocians, the maximum allowed. For Galatian legionaries, basically 6, whatever is the maximum. Let's say there are 8 melee units maximum, so 8 sword units. So I'll bring 2 Galatian swords and 6 Galatian legionaries. For spears, there usually isn't the maximum, so anywhere from 4 to 6 levy freemen. That allows you to bring 2 mercenary Syrian archers. It also allows you to bring 2 Galatian raiders. This is a setup that I really like for for Galatia. You can, for example, if you want another mercenary horse skirmishers, if there's a max of something like max 2 horse skirmishers. If that's the case, then this is fine. If you can bring a maximum of 3, you can, for example, have 3 levy freemen and 1 more mercenary horse skirmishers. Great for sniping any enemy cavalry, elephants, and such. If not, you can bring additional levy freemen. So you have 5 levy freemen. You have the Syrians, you have a very strong infantry line, you have some flanking support for your cavalry, you have precursors for days. And I think something like this, it might be that Trolly just wanted to try something different with Galatia, but as soon as you start bringing in the Galatian nobles for the general, as soon as you start bringing in even Galatian spears, I think you are getting away from the strength of Galatia, which is, it's not really cavalry. They can't bring a lot of mid-tier cavalry, but I think the combination of Galatian raiders being defensive with Galatian raiders, being defensive with mercenary Cappadocians, stopping important charges, doing damage to important units at range with the Syrians, and the rock-solid Galatian legionaries, together with the very cost-effective Galatian swords. Very hard for Pergamon to beat, but HunnicWarrior did a good job there. And his opening moves were pretty damn good, but Pergamon just falls apart. And Pergamon is one of those armies where you can play significantly better than your opponent, and you'll still lose because you don't have any staying power, and the micro becomes a nightmare. Strength and honor.